All right, good morning, everybody. Appreciate you guys all being here. Let's take a look at our trade plan from last night. Do we need to update these levels? So on ES, we said above 390, we're looking for 427 and 460. That is still perfectly fine. So holding above 390 is the value high of yesterday. So holding above that value high, we're looking for the overnight high, or just the high of day of yesterday. And then 460 is, I think it's an old value level. It is the value level of Thursday, value high. You could also target 445. That's the POC node of Thursday as well. Holding below 340, we are looking for 317 and 287. And then obviously, if there's ever a big gap between my two levels, it just means there's a rotation there. So holding below 90 could rotate into 40. So this is a pretty wide value area, almost a 50 point, 40 point value area. So you could say holding below like 85, if you wanted to be exact. But yeah, in between those two levels, we're looking for a rotation. Right now we have a micro pullback, kind of a D-shaped profile. We don't really have a direct bias from today. Okay, one thing that I said on our trade plan here was because this value rotation is so wide on yesterday's value, it is going to look quite bearish if it's rotating downward. But if it holds on to that 40 level, it's still not really bearish, right? You're just rotating. But yes, because this is like a 40-point drop, it would have to be pretty bearish in the short term in order to rotate that profile. So NASDAQ is pretty much the same story. Holding above 630, we're looking for 750 and 880. A couple of breakout targets there. Holding below 447, we're looking for 320 and 204. 320 and 204 is the incomplete auction from the value retrace of Wednesday. We did not finish that retrace. Same thing here in between the two levels. You are rotating. You're literally like right in the middle. So we don't have a bias going into the open here. It is almost directly in the middle of yesterday's value. So good luck picking a direction out of the gate here. Basically have that very standard micro pullback structure, that D-shaped bell curve. Yesterday, I put out a recap video that talks about the best way to trade these like trend days, right? These value D-shaped value days or D-shaped balance days that kind of turn into trend days. If you guys watched that yesterday, that's what we're looking for today, basically. All right, as always, where are we on our 30-minute trail? We're doing the same thing. We're sitting right on that trail. So if we start losing that trail pretty early, around like 67, 75 to 80, that will look pretty bad. Keep an eye on that lower value rotation. Let's take a look at NASDAQ. NASDAQ kind of already losing that trail. So if we stay below 540, start pushing below 520, then that trail will most likely flip red, and it would be pretty bearish for that rotation. So just keep an eye on those trails. We are currently sitting on those trails, just like we were yesterday. All right, so far out of the gate, not looking too bad. Buyer delta coming in. All right, let's take a look at our overnight here. Always good to look at the 1 minute and kind of see where those point of origins are from those impulses. See where those buyers and sellers are coming in, right? All right, couple zones we're keeping an eye on around the 90s, around the 80s. That one's already kind of been tested. And then around 70 as well. This one has kind of already been tested. It's kind of creating a bulldog here. You have a bottom, pop up, bottom here, pop up, and then possibly a little pullback. A lot of bearish delta being absorbed on the open here. We have that delta flip that we keep seeing, where the delta goes very heavily in one direction and then it flips and fades it. Here is that trade plan for you guys. There you go. Seeing a lot of absorption up here, so they're kind of fading that buyer delta out of the gate so far. Yep, seeing a one of those opening fades that we keep seeing. Those buyers instantly getting trapped and then squeezed out. This could be the head of a bulldog. It would have to stop basically right here. You can't go below like 80. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Tachi, AT, Trevor, Backpack, and Fernando. Let me pin the trade plan for you guys. There you go. Good morning, Tamer. Future, Techie, Roman, Lubomir, Nahal, Larry, Leo, Banana, Jeremy, C-Max, Scott, James, Gregor, Jay, Marcel, Crypto, going on, Jazz, OG, Curtis, Ordinary, Orion, Albert. Good morning, Sam, Optimus, Michael, Liquidated, Seth, Daniel. Good morning, Crypto, Creso, Typhoon, Estevan. Good morning, Let's Do This. Good morning, Darius, DS, Volume, Lulu, 2013. Appreciate you guys all being here. Keep an eye on this bearish delta being absorbed here. A lot of bearish delta on the high up here. Good morning, Rocks, eBay, Pete, Dab, Nazir, Morris, Bill, Ryder, Bobby, Willie. Hey, Nazir, I appreciate the donation, man. I'm glad you enjoy the channel. That Bulldog's looking pretty good. If it holds above 80 here, it's not looking too bad. Dab, we're probably going to do a Momo Monday on Monday, so hold your Momo questions for then. I didn't do one this week, so we'll probably do one next week. I'll probably do them like every other week instead of every week. From what I've seen, most of you guys are getting the hang of them much better since the last few Momo Mondays, so I don't think we need to do them every week, but we will we'll do one on Monday. Yeah, Crypto, if you can think of it, I've probably tried it. Rinko's not bad. There's not really like a downside to them. I just prefer candles. I guess the downside would be based on your settings, it can be very slow sometimes. But that's kind of just your settings, right? Because you can make it as fast or as slow as you want. But if you want to keep a consistent Renko setting, some days it's just going to be very slow. Also, indicators don't work very well on Renko. That could be another downside. But usually people who are trading Renko don't really care about indicators. They're not really the indicator kind of trader. Yeah, exactly, Rocket. That's a good way to put it. People can also use Renko as an indicator as itself. Like the Renko chart by itself is kind of giving you different levels that you can use. You can crown, but that it kind of like I don't know, it kind of like defeats the purpose of Renko, like if you're constantly changing the settings. But it's also just personal preference. Some people like to use Renko based on ATR, which will it affects its own settings, right? But when I use Renko, or at least when I did back in the past, I like to have it set in stone. So I'd have it set on like 1 point or 2 points or 3 or something like that. And obviously, if the market changed dramatically for a long like week or two period, a month period, I might have to up my settings, right? If the market's more volatile, but I don't want to change it every single day. And this discussion, you're starting to realize why I pushed away from Renko. Like with candlesticks, you don't really have to think about stuff like this. It's kind of similar with candlesticks where it's like some days the 1 minute doesn't look as clean as like the 5 minute, right? It's kind of the same with Renko. Maybe a 1 point doesn't look as clean as a 5 point. A lot of bullish delta coming in on NASDAQ here. We are still just stuck inside of yesterday's value. So until we see a significant value breakout, there's not a whole lot to look for here besides rotations. ES is trying to break out of that value, so we need to stay above 90. If we can stay above 90 and start to trend, we'll start doing what we talked about in that video yesterday. Single prints at 95. I don't know. Do we have single prints from yesterday? I don't remember. Yeah, we do. We got a couple single prints going up. We filled most of them in. We had an afternoon break as well, but that already got repaired. The closing spike actually repaired that. Flipping the 5-minute trail green, you're still holding the 30-minute trail. Yeah, Bobby, it's helped my trading quite a bit. The OTS has definitely helped. I made it back in like 2019 or 2018. I can't remember if it was the end of 2018 or early 2019. But yeah, since then we've been using it pretty much every single day. VWAP trap, it could be. Unfortunately, you do not have a NASDAQ and ES are not really following each other here, so you don't really know which delta you can trust. Because the delta on NASDAQ is pretty damn good. It's not showing a trap, but yes, ES is. ES is on that 90 level, so if we stay below that, it's just going to rotate right back down. This is kind of your bulldog hitting your target. So from 80 to 90, nice little 10-point move there. Yeah, I think that video yesterday is definitely one that you guys should watch if you're struggling on days like this or days that they start out where they're not very one-directional, but then they kind of turn into these one-directional days. Yeah, we're kind of seeing it right now, actually. What is our value high? $87 to $85. So here is the single print fill-in. So if we wanted to, we could say, if we're using the lower level, and not the 90 breakout, if we're using the 85 value breakout, we could start pulling an anchored VWAP from that level. We could also start pulling a POC from that level, and we can see if we're going to actually hold outside of balance. Sorry, I was doing something. So right now it needs to hold above 90, which is basically everything lining up. The value levels, the VWAP, the POC. We could do the same thing on NASDAQ. Where is the NASDAQ breakout? So here's that rotation on NASDAQ hitting the value high of yesterday. My trading view is taking forever to load. There we go. Value high is 572. So this candle right here is what started it. So we can grab a POC. Oh, that's not what I wanted. We can grab a VWAP. And we can grab a POC. And then we can just kind of follow the trend up, right? We can follow those, or we could follow EMAs. This would be a bulldog runner. So if you took that bulldog trade, this is just a runner from that trade. So until this trend is lost, that runner's looking pretty good. Now, I will say they're not doing a good job building up nodes up here. As we can see on the dynamic POC, I talked with this during the video yesterday. You see how the dynamic POC is not shifting up because we're not building any nodes up here. It's a little dangerous when you have breaks like this and you're not building nodes. What you can see happen is if you have, if you're very extended off the ADMA, right? And you're not building nodes above that, instead of waiting for the EMAs to catch up to you, the price goes down to the EMAs, right? It's going to catch up one way or the other. Either you're going down to the EMA or the EMA is coming up to you. If you're building the nodes and protecting them, then the EMAs will catch up to you. You as in price. But yeah, if you're not building up the nodes, that's when you have those quick drops and it goes back to the EMAs. Good morning, Joan. Good morning, Metis. Appreciate you guys being here. Yeah, the Bulldog had a really good target, like a normal target. So the normal target was hit around 90. But the trail target hasn't really been trailed out. There hasn't been a pullback to really trail you out. If you're using a trailing system where you have like a normal target and then you have like a trail target, the normal target is normally when price is going in your favor. The trail target is when price is going against you, right? So this might start trailing people out depending on how aggressive they're being. If you're trailing like the most aggressive way possible, if it loses the ADMA, then you're done. Then you have like 5-minute lows, 30-minute lows, 24 EMA trails, I mean, whatever, right? You've got a million ways you can trail it. Losing the upper nodes. But this would be like the most aggressive way. Is losing the 1-minute ADMA. Manifest, you can always check out my trade plan. It's pinned in chat. Which I also need to make the poll here. Let me do that now. Manifest, I don't talk about stuff like that because it's completely relative to the trader. There's no way I could answer something like that for you. $100 a day for some people would be life-changing. $100 a day for other people would be chump change, right? Money is very relative, so we don't talk about money too much on this channel. Yeah, exactly. The best way to think about futures trading is in points, right? If you can generate X amount of points a day and scale that, obviously, then money can scale. You don't have to constantly scale your points. You can just scale your size. Yeah, Manifest, if you're talking about specific Apex accounts, I have a sizing guide for the 50K account, which is still relative to today because I made that sizing guide with high volatility in mind. So if you're talking about like proper sizing on like those types of accounts, you can check out my sizing guide. Okay, we are shifting that POC higher, the breakout POC. Starting to build some higher value up here around 96. A little bit of absorption on the high. There's some delta getting stuck at 99. But yeah, speaking of the sizing guide, I had a long conversation with Apex yesterday. And they're actually going to be helping out the channel a little bit. So they're going to be giving me some free accounts to give away to you guys. So we'll be giving away accounts over the next like few weeks. I'm not going to like schedule them. It'll be kind of random. But yeah, next week we'll be giving away accounts. Week after that, giving away accounts. I'll be making some more videos as well. So I've been pushing off those like sizing guide videos for a long time. I need to actually sit down and finally make those. So I'll probably be making some sizing guide videos for the 250s or the 300Ks. I'll be making them for ES and NASDAQ as well. So those will probably be coming out sometime next week, maybe the week after. So look out for stuff like that. But yeah, it's really cool of Apex. They reached out to me and they were talking about ways they could help the channel, and they said they wanted to give me some free accounts for you guys. What I'll probably do, I don't really have it set in stone just yet. They'll probably be like random, but I'll probably do like kind of like how we do the monthly raffles. We'll probably do like weekly raffles. We'll do maybe like goals if we hit a certain amount of likes or something like that. But yeah, it'll be kind of random. But yeah, keep an eye on stuff like that. We'll start doing that next week. Good morning, Max. Good morning, Faraj. Chuck. So this is the opposite of yesterday. If we look at the reaction to that overnight trail, right, where we had that kind of trail, nice little trend on the overnight, and we opened up right on that trail. And we have to decide, are we going to bounce off that trail, or are we going to nuke that trail right at the open? And yesterday, it was the nuke one, where we broke the trail immediately and then trended down the entire day. And then same thing today, we have that overnight trail. We opened up right on it, but we're using it as support, so now we have that bounce off the trail from the overnight. That's a nice little back-to-back kind of what you can see in either direction. But yeah, we have been doing that recently. We're opening like right on the trail. We're opening on that decision point. And we need to give it like 10 to 30 minutes to decide whether or not it wants to break up or down. Yeah, Ordinary. They've always been a really good company, man. That's why I've stuck with them for so long. They've been basically the exclusive prop firm that I've used for the past, like, what? 4 years? 3 years? Morning, Ronaldo. I don't have any thoughts on them. I haven't ever used them. So yeah, that's basically short answer. I've never used them. All I can say is they've been around for a long time, so I don't think they're like a scam or anything like that. But I've never used them personally. Good morning, Ronaldo. If you're talking about Apex, yeah, they have live accounts. Yep. Good morning, Aquarius. Good morning. Who did we miss earlier? KBS. Okay, so exactly what we talked about yesterday. If you guys didn't see that video, be sure to check that out after the stream today. You can see here we're shifting that breakout POC continuously higher. So this trend is pretty healthy. They're building up higher value. They are protecting the VWAP from the breakout. They're protecting the ADMA. The trail is being protected. The candles are all green on the OTS. The Momo is flat at 15. There's just really no signals here that this is weakening at all, right? So if you're holding any buy trades from lower, maybe VWAP, maybe the Bulldog, whatever, those trails are still being protected pretty aggressively. The OTS candle colors are based on trend. So it's like volume and price trend. We do have a 30-minute pivot at 417. Here's the open of yesterday that caused a lot of sell pressure. Around 410. Here is a potential target on ES on the higher time frames. It was an old POC around like 410. And then you have the overnight high around 427. NASDAQ, you could target the high of day of yesterday, but then after that, we have extension targets. We have like Fibonacci extension. We have old value levels from these nodes. Good morning, Blake. Bobby said, does the amount of times price rejects or supports a pivot weaken it? To a degree, yes. But as long as it's being respected, I would still pay attention to it. If it starts to like slice through it and it doesn't really... basically, if it acts like it's not even there, then I would ignore it. But as long as price is respecting it and showing reactions on that level, then I would continue to pay attention to it. I typically like to see one test on both sides. So like if it's an orange pivot and we break it and then we retest it to the downside and we bounce off of it, you're testing it on both sides, right? You broke it on the upside and then retest it on the buy side. Have a good weekend, Tamer. This is filtered for 25. This is filtered for 100. I think my NASDAQ is 10 contracts, I believe. Look at that ADMA just holding us up every single candle. ES doing a fantastic job. Just trending up here. Doing a good job. Raising value as well. If you guys watched that video yesterday, you're basically getting a crash course on how that works. We are one time framing bullishly, but obviously the 30-minute lows are very far away. Can't really use those in our trading right now. The value retrace yesterday, the one down to like 40, you mean? Yeah, yesterday had a big value retrace. I mean, that was damn near the bottom. The one down to 40. And that right there is what we talk about with a closing spike. Trend is very bearish, and then you recover like half the day in one closing candle. You are 5-minute one time framing as well, so very aggressive here. You're damn near 1-minute one time framing. I mean, look at the Momo. You've been gold almost the entire time. This is an insanely strong push. You had a couple of buy signals on the OTS trail on that right before the open around 9 o'clock and 8 o'clock. We did not lose that trail at 80. You slightly lost it on NASDAQ and then recovered it. Kind of dojied right below it. Here's that pivot on NQ. We're back to the open on ES, that open of yesterday. Yeah, Jazz, they've been happening quite a lot recently. Or just goes into this random trend, it just doesn't want to leave it. Good morning, Mauser. Keep an eye on those 5-minute lows because we are one time framing on the 5-minute. I don't think we've lost a 5-minute low the entire day, actually. No, we have not. That's kind of insane. We have not lost a 5-minute low since the open. Yeah, I see the Russia-Ukraine headlines, but I don't really know if that's what's moving the market. The market doesn't really care about that crisis too much anymore. It definitely helps. A lot of red coming in on the tape here. A lot of bearish delta up here. Yeah, it could have been like the short-term spikes when it came out. That is the first 5-minute low to be taken out the entire day. There's not a lot of absorption on the high, but you do have a decent amount of bullish delta, but it's mostly below the high. It's kind of around 0.7. Here come the trails and the 24 EMAs. So first real pullback of the day. It is affecting oil. Oil's going down a little bit. EOC shifting to that 0.5 level. That's a pretty nasty 30-minute candle. It's only halfway done. But it is turning into a sweep. You're not seeing a lot of buy pressure off that trail or 24. They're kind of ignoring it. Keep an eye on VWAP. VWAP coming up at 96. This would be trailing out most buys. Breakout buys, bulldog buys, VWAP buys. Pretty much any reason you were in a buy trade, this is most likely going to be trailing you out. because that's about a 10-point drop from the high. Good morning, OP. So we are holding the VWAP from the breakout, the break of balance VWAP at 400. Our other VWAPs are 97 and 91. Trying to recover the 1-minute trail here. We haven't flipped it red, but we have lost it a little bit. Yeah, it's the first back test of the 5-minute pivot. Is there a 15-minute pivot up here? It's putting in a new 15-minute pivot. Been on this 30-minute sweep. You can't really trade this as a sweep, unfortunately. The wick is very large. You would have to trade it probably with something else. But it's signaling bearish pressure, right? If they can actually hold that as a sweep. Holding below that 0.2. They're trying really hard to hold that responsive level. The VWAP, the trail, the 24 EMA. Basically where responsive buyers have had their first opportunity to enter this trade. And they are holding it. They're just not very aggressive. They're not really, I guess aggressive would not be the right word because they're not aggressive by nature. There's not a lot of them is what I should say. You're not getting a lot of responsive buying here. It's not exactly a rollover top, but it's pretty damn close. You could say there's like a little high here. And then you have a weak high. Then you have a lower high, but you're kind of forcing it. It's not exactly a rollover top, but like I said, it's pretty close. More of a vertical distribution. Now that all the headlines have settled, have the rate cut odds changed? Let's see. Yeah, they went down a little bit. Said 90% for a rate cut instead of like, what was it earlier, like 95, 99? You still have a very long time until that meeting, too. There's a lot of data coming out before then. No, I haven't made any major updates to Athena recently. I put so much time into it when I first was making it that I don't really have any major updates to do to it right now. It's kind of where I want it. I put like 100 hours, maybe over 100 hours into it in the first couple of weeks. Yeah, how is our volume today? It's not too bad. 130,000, 110, it's not too bad. Those responsive traders are doing a good job holding here. Trail is holding, 24 holding. VWAP from the breakout is holding. We have not lost this break of balance, which obviously is not really a break of balance anymore. We've been breaking for so long that this is the balance now. This is the value area. But that is where the initial break of balance occurred. So we're still monitoring how it's shifted since that point of origin. That is the point of origin of this trend breakout, right? So as long as they hold on to that dynamic POC, that dynamic VWAP, they are still pushing higher, looking for higher value. I'm gonna go make some coffee really quick. I'll be right back. All right, let's see here. We do have some single prints going down to 403. Yeah, the blue lines are the solid line is the anchored VWAP, and the like dash line is the dynamic POC. They're both originating from the breakout where we started to break balance initially. Watch yesterday's video, it explains it in detail. I mean, you guys who watched yesterday's video are being rewarded pretty much immediately. Like I said, you're getting a crash course in what we talked about on that video, so hopefully you guys are putting that into practice. Hey, Zach, no worries, man. I see your message. I'll get you added as soon as the stream is over. Or I could probably just do it right now, because I only need to send you... Oh, is the link not working? Is that what the problem is? Let me see here. Is that link expired? The one that I sent you? It is expired. Okay, let me send you a new one. Let me know if that one works. Hey, Willie, it's the most recent video on my channel, so if you go to my channel and go to my videos, it should be the very first one. I forgot what I titled it. It's something about trend trading. All right, Zach, you should be good to go now. I believe I already added you to the indicators. If you don't see indicator access, just send me a message on Discord again. But yeah, you should already see those in your invite only on TradingView. All right, guys, not a whole lot to do analysis on today. Like I said, we're pretty much just following that technique that we talked about yesterday. We're following the breakout points, the breakout nodes, the EMAs, the trails, whatever you like to use as a trail. You did have one little pullback that would have stopped out your trails if you were already in a long from way like around the open. But then it gave you an opportunity to get in a new long if you were not in a long, right? If you were not in a trade, it gave you that opportunity around the responsive levels, the trails, the 24, whatever, VWAP, whatever it may be. Let's take a look at NASDAQ. So here's a problem with NASDAQ. NASDAQ is not shifting its value as quickly as ES is. Look at ES here. Actually, no, I'm on a 5-minute chart on ES, so ES is having the same problem. I take that back. They are both having the same problem here. They are not shifting their value up towards this high, so this is a weak move. Now, I will say that because this has become the POC, that shift is going to become much harder now. So as they were moving the POC up, you can shift very easily, right? But now that this has become the POC, like the actual POC for the day, it is a lot harder to shift. So that might act as a magnet and start pulling you back into it. I believe I talked about that in the video, about the magnet levels, but I'm not sure. But yeah, basically, if you're not building a new node, then those old nodes will start to pull you back into them. That's a pretty standard volume profile concept, if you guys know how to trade volume profile. Yes, we have taken out the initial balance high, so very likely that is the low of day. Very likely that is the low of day, just because of that pattern we have been seeing recently, where the initial balance is breaking on one side and the other side is not being tested, not even close, for the rest of the day. So we had an untested level yesterday. We had that pattern yesterday, where we put in that high of day, and now it's currently about to be tested. They also did the other pattern that we talk about, where when they fill in single prints, they love to create new single prints. They filled in the 95 single prints from yesterday, created new ones, going up to 403. The market is just a giant basket of different patterns, and you need to figure out which ones that you can trade, right? You can tie your trading system to. Some patterns are going to resonate with you a lot better than others. Hey Jeff, I think you meant it the other way. Do you have to join Discord to get indicators? Is that what you're saying? You don't have to, no. If you want just the indicators, there's a couple ways you can get them. We have an Apex partnership, so if you use my Apex code, you get access to my TradingView indicators for 60 days to help you get funded. You could also just sign up for them on the website, or you could join the Discord. You get access to everything on the Discord. So a couple ways. But yeah, if you don't have an Apex account, or if you want to sign up for new ones, if you use the code at the bottom right, the BREW brew code, let me know on email, like send me an email. Here's my email. And I can get you added to the indicators with the hope that the indicators will help you get funded, right? And if you have any questions about the indicators, come back to the stream on Monday. We're going to be doing a Momo Monday stream. And I'm going to be talking about the indicators and showing how I read them for analysis on Monday. I don't know off the top of my head, Martin. You'd have to take a look at the website. If you're looking at buying the lifetime for my indicators, I would wait until Black Friday, to be honest. If you want to wait that long. The highest promotion that I do every year is on Black Friday. Okay, here is exactly what we were just talking about. This is the problem when you do not create new nodes. The old nodes like to act as magnets and pull you back into them. So we're seeing that POC node act as a magnet and it's pulling price back down here. This is also the magnet of the single prints. This is a very weird occurrence here. This typically does not happen. But we have single prints on the POC node. Typically, single prints are going to be LVNs, not HVNs. But right now we have that magnet of the single print and the POC. Yet again, we are seeing another 30-minute sweep of that 410 level. We're seeing a lot of sweeps recently. Which data provider do I use? I use Apex. So my rhythmic connection from Apex is what you're currently looking at. The only data that I have right now is Trade-of-8, which is also Apex. I have my personal account on Trade-of-8, and then I have a Rhythmic account, which you're currently looking at, which is also Apex from on Addis, right? This is Addis, ATAS. If you guys want to use Addis with Apex, you have to sign up for their Rhythmic accounts, not their Trade-of-8 accounts. This was a bear div, by the way, but this is one of those bear divs that there's a lot of price action in between. We don't typically like to trade bear divs like that. You can use that as like a bonus for your trade. It's going to help your trade out. But I wouldn't use that as like the sole reason to get in a trade, right? Yeah, Trade-of-8 uses CQG, but it's not really a data feed that you can like use on other platforms. You can't like use it on third-party platforms. So it's not even like a data feed. You're basically just on Trade-of-8. You used to be able to use it on other platforms, but they took that away like last year or this year when NinjaTrader bought them. Hey Lulu, have a good weekend. Psychology books. I don't really read a lot of books on psychology. I read mostly technical books. The one that I typically recommend is the one that everybody recommends. The Trading in the Zone book. It's pretty old, but it's still relevant. Trading in the Zone is what it's called. But yeah, I'm more of a technical guy. I don't really read the psychology books. I don't really talk too much about psychology on stream. A lot of the psychology stuff with trading, it can't really be taught. It's more so learned just by doing. By trading, right? Making mistakes and learning how to fix those mistakes. Trading is a very it's a very individual battle, right? Yeah, it's very personal. Yep. Trading is extremely personal. A lot of personal preference, a lot of personal discipline. A lot of things that I can't help you guys with. I can help you with the technical stuff. I can help you with the patterns and the indicators and all that stuff, but I can't help you too much with the personal stuff. You got to battle your own demons when it comes to trading like that. Let me take a look, Bobby. Are there 2 pivots there? Oh, you mean like the old pivot and the new pivot? Yes, yeah. So when you see stuff like that, we kind of call that a pivot sandwich, but usually the pivot sandwich is when you have multiple colors. So when you have an orange and you have a blue. Right now we just have 2 oranges, so it is a good level to watch. It's not as good as if they were different colors. Yeah, we call that a pivot sandwich usually when the pivots like line up and they kind of create like a zone, but they're like different colors. A good example of a pivot sandwich is the daily. If I show you the daily here. So when you have these 2 pivots of different colors they're both extending, that's kind of like a zone you want to keep an eye on. Then we had one like back here as well. So that's what I'm talking about. By the way, we're bouncing off the daily trail now, so it looks much better than it did a couple of days ago. Still being pulled down into this VWAP. Too many mixed signals today. Well, today is a day that you needed to be in earlier. There's not a whole lot going on right now. If I had to say what the optimal entry points were today, it was the break of balance, which also could have been taken perfectly if you were like absolutely perfect. This wick, this is the bulldog we were talking about. If you go back to my stream at 9:34, we talked about this being a bulldog. So this was the bulldog entry, which was also VWAP. So that was like if you were absolutely perfect. If you took the more like confirmation entry, it was the break of balance around here. And then other than that, you didn't really have an entry until the first responsive entry here. And that was pretty much it. If you didn't buy here or here, there weren't really any high strike rate trades besides that. There is a bear trade going on right now, but this is not like super high strike rate. This is a bear div with a sweep. It's also a bear div on momentum as well. So there is a little bit of a bearish entry up here, which you could have taken. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So if you guys are wondering like where the higher strike rate trades are today, that's what I see. Yeah, I've heard the Daily Trading Coach. People have recommended that one. I haven't read that one personally. I actually haven't finished Dalton's new book either, and I heard his newer book is more psychology focused. Keep an eye on VWAP here. Here's the breakout VWAP. And then our actual VWAP is at 6,400 to 95. We just filled in the single prints, so single prints are now completed. Normally I do, Chris, yeah. So normally I try not to trade within the first like 10 or 15 minutes. Now, recently, I will say that you can't really do that every day because it is giving you some pretty damn good entries in the first 15 minutes. Those patterns that I've talked about in our last couple of recap videos, a lot of those patterns are happening in the first 15 minutes. The opening fade, the opening sweeps, which is basically the same thing. We have a lot of VWAP tests right out of the open. We have a lot of 30-minute OTS trail tests right out of the open. So normally I would say yes, you do not want to trade in the first like 10 or 15 minutes. Right now in our current environment, you kind of have to sometimes. So I would not keep that as like a set in stone rule that you can't trade every open. You just got to look at what the market's giving you. And recently the market has been giving you some damn good trades in the first like 15 minutes. Skip the first 3 chapters, a lot of repetition. Yeah, I think I kind of felt like that when I started reading it. Is it seemed like it was a lot of repetitive stuff and kind of like he was kind of just reiterating stuff from his older books. Okay, technically we are still one time framing until this 30-minute low gets taken out. So the buyers are going to protect this, or they're going to try, right? They're going to try to protect this 30-minute low so they continue that one time frame. Look at the bearish delta we're seeing today. We're seeing some pretty serious bearish clusters, but they're just not doing anything. They're kind of being stuck. We have a big cluster here. We had a decent cluster there. We had a very big cluster here. That got taken out immediately. This is probably one of the big reasons why we pushed so hard, is because we had so much bearish delta being trapped there. Yeah, a lot of bearish delta today. Look at this. I mean, look at the bearish delta trend. And that's probably why this bear div is doing so well, is because typically when you have a delta trend that is counter your price trend, it's inverse your price trend, the delta trend typically does win. That's another pattern we talked about, I think, in either the last recap or the one before. We're seeing a lot of that on the closing spike. OTS is short for the Oasis trading suite. Whenever you hear me talk about trails or pivots, that's what I'm talking about. It's this indicator on my chart. Anything that's revolving around this indicator is the OTS. The OTS gave me so much confidence entering that long break at 90. Yeah, the 90 break was pretty clean. The 90 break was one of those like waterfalling techniques we talk about with the OTS. You bounced off the 1 minute trail, you broke the 1 minute pivot, 5 minute trail was supporting you, you broke a 5 minute pivot, you go to the 15 minute trail was supporting you, you go to the 30, you had buy signals on the 30, broke a 30 minute pivot. So exactly, yeah. A 90 level was a beautiful waterfall on the OTS. No, all of my indicators are only on TradingView. They are coded in TradingView's language. Here's VWAP, by the way. Keep an eye on VWAP. We lost the breakout POC. We lost the breakout VWAP. Let's take a look at NASDAQ. NASDAQ not losing it just yet. NASDAQ is sitting on it almost exactly. Keep an eye on that 30-minute low. We have not lost a low so far today. Yeah, for all of our new faces in here, for you guys asking about the indicators, if you guys don't have access, here's my email. If you sign up using that Apex code at the bottom right, just send me an email and let me know, hey, I used your code, here's my receipt. Here's my TradingView username. Could I try out the indicators? And I'll get you guys added. And if you do that before Monday, we go into Monday, we're going to do a Momo Monday. And I'm going to talk about some tips and tricks on how to use them. 30-minute low has been taken out. That is the first low we've lost today. Now, obviously, it's not saying a whole lot. It's only 2 candles. But that is a new 30-minute low. The only actual buy, Chris, was the 30-minute. That was the 30-minute trail. Nothing else was giving you like a buy signal. It was just breaking out of the pivots and whatnot. But the 30-minute was giving you those blue triangles, which is a buy the dip signal, meaning that price is pulling back to the responsive level and bouncing off of it. But other than that, just look at the lower time frames. Look at the 1 minute, the 5 minute, and the 15 minute. I can just quickly show you guys if you guys don't know what I'm talking about. So here's the 1, here's the 5. I'll put the 15 here. And here's the 30. So if I mark out 90 on every chart here, it was a little bit early on the 1 minute. It broke a couple levels before 90. Okay, so there's 90 on every level, or on every time frame. So how the waterfall started was the 1 minute started to bounce off the trail. This is the VWAP and the Bulldog. So this candle here was the Bulldog. You had the bottom, pop-up pullback, retesting the back. That's the Bulldog there. That's also a VWAP test. So that's like your most aggressive buy right there. Then you started to break the 1 minute pivot at 86. So that was kind of a breakout buy. Then on the 5 minute, you also broke a pivot at 86, same pivot. Then you started to break above the value high at 90. Value high at 90 here as well. Then on the 15, that would be the 90 break right there. Trail was green, confirming it. 30-minute buy signals. You had buy the dip signals on the trail. Broke the pivot at right before 90. So every single time frame was confirming the break of 90. Or possibly the pullback to like 80 to 85. Also confirmed that as well. Keep it on this 1 minute trail. 1 minute trail flipped red at 10:48 and still holding red for now. Not yet. Trades. I don't know 100% on that one just yet. We're still testing it out. No, the OTS and Momos, they don't really directly tell you to buy or sell. The closest thing on the OTS is the buy the dip and sell the rally. Those aren't exactly like entry signals. They're just they're there to tell you that pullbacks are being bought or sold. $30-minute low sweep happening here. This is our first retest of VWAP since the break of balance. This would be a bull flag in the VWAP. We typically trade bear flags in the VWAP, and I typically say bear flags in the VWAP are much better trades. Doesn't mean the bull flag is a bad trade. I would much prefer to take a bear flag trade though. But yeah, this is a bull flag in the VWAP. You had a strong breakaway, and we are pulling back into it. Well, that's why I have two VWAPs. You're looking at one of the VWAPs. So this would be the bull flag in the VWAP here. And this bounce would be trailing out any of those shorts from the top, the bear div, the sweep, whatever reason you took a short up there. you're most likely being trailed out. This bounce is about 7 points, so you're probably not fully trailed out just yet. I'd say most people are trailing below like 10 points. So once it starts getting to like 10 points, pretty much everybody is trailed out. Doesn't really matter what system they're using, EMAs or candles or nodes, whatever. 10 points is usually going to break everything. As you can see here, 80 EMA lost, 24 lost, trail lost, 5-minute candle structure is lost. It also gave you the VWAP target, which most people were probably targeting. VWAP is probably the most consistent target across the board. Doesn't really matter what setup you're trading. Usually VWAP is a good target, unless it's just like really far away. Is it hard to manage my trades while streaming? No, I don't trade very actively. So I only trade like, if I'm trading more than 3 times a day, like 3 or 4 times a day, I'm trading a lot, right? 2 to 3 times a day is typically what I'm looking for. So I trade very, I don't know if sporadically would be the right word, but I'm more of like a sniper, right? I'm looking for a very specific thing. I know I commentate on everything, so it sounds like I'm constantly trading, but that's just the nature of commentating, right? I'm commentating every little thing that's happening. I'm doing analysis on every little thing that's happening. That doesn't mean that I'm trading every little thing, right? Streaming has actually really helped me in my trading because of that exact reason. It makes me be patient because I do not have the luxury of like micro scalping anymore because I'm too distracted by commentating and Discord and stream. And it's a good distraction, right? I don't want to be micro scalping. I don't want to be constantly in a trade. So it does help. And I don't overly manage my trades. As I've talked about a lot in my tutoring sessions, I've talked about the proper way to manage your trades, where to pull your stops and all that stuff. How to trail. Yesterday was a poor high? I don't think so. At least not on my settings. Yeah, not on my settings. It might have been on normal settings. Yeah, exactly, man. I try to give my analysis, my commentary. I try not to influence you guys too heavily. Like obviously I have a bias every now and then I'll tell you guys that we're bullish or bearish or whatever. But I'm not trying to heavily influence you. I'm just trying to tell you what I'm seeing and you can take that and do with it as you please. Yeah, but Chris, that's a it's a misconception, right? So it's like people think that if they constantly see where I enter trades, that it's going to help them enter their trades. It's not going to, because they're never going to have the exact intuition that I have. I could show you guys 100 examples of how I enter rollover tops. It's not going to change how exactly you guys enter rollover tops by pressing that button, right? That final decision that makes you guys press that button. It's not going to make a difference from how I've already explained to you guys a million times over on how I enter rollover tops. People have this like weird idea in their head that I'm explaining how to enter trades the same exact way of a million times, and I'm not entering trades that way. I just I don't really get that line of thinking. Do I want to visit Europe? Yeah, definitely. I'd like to visit a bunch of places in Europe. I don't travel too much right now. A big thing that I talk about in my tutoring sessions with almost every single member, because they all have the same kind of struggles, where they know the pattern but they don't know where to enter. And I try to explain to them that it's not an exact science. It's what I call an optimal entry point. You have like a zone of where your brain should be telling you this is where you want to trade. Now, what makes you press that button during that, when you're inside that zone, that cannot be taught. That is completely up to like trader's intuition, right? I can teach you where to find that zone and where to turn your brain on and think about pressing that button. But what gets you to press that button, I can't teach you because I don't even really know, right? I don't know what makes me finally decide I want to press that button. It's just a accumulation of years and years of trading the same patterns. Learning the zone is the hardest part, and that's exactly why I teach that. I teach that zone on all of my setups. I mean, I'm literally doing it right now. These like circles are these zones, right? And I also draw out the zones constantly on my point of origin levels as well. Like I've said, I'm not going to go into this random every stream, but if you guys think that I'm not doing that, that I'm not giving you the optimal entry points, I don't know what stream you guys are watching, but this might not be the stream for you. That's kind of like one of the reasons why I ignore some messages in chat every now and then, because some people it's just not going to click, right? I can't teach everybody, right? If you're one of those people that have like been in my stream like every day and I talk about the same thing every single day, and then you ask me a question that I answer every single day, it's just not going to click with you, right? It doesn't matter how many times I can explain it. Some people it's just not going to click with, and that's just the way of the world. Yeah, like I said, if you think, and I'm not calling out anybody, I'm just saying as a whole, any viewer here, if you think that I'm not doing that, that I'm not providing you the optimal entries and the proper setups and whatnot, it's probably just not clicking with you, and my style of teaching is not going to work for you, and you might want to find a different channel. Our brains are not wired the same way, and I can't fix that. Yeah, Mind Over Markets does a very good job explaining a lot of the stuff that I talk about on stream. Dalton is probably the closest to like my style. Yeah, Gunk, the fractal indicator. Do we have one right now? Let me see. Do I have it on, or do we just not have any fractals? Okay, we have a couple of fractals here. So basically what the fractal is telling you that this candle, it has that orange fractal up here. This candle is putting in a high. The prior two candles are putting in lower highs. So lower high, lower high. And then the next two candles, lower high, lower high. So it's a 5 candle pattern or a 3 candle pattern, depending on what type of fractal. I don't know what Addis uses. I don't remember. I don't remember if Addis uses 5 or 3. I think it uses 5 because we don't have one just yet. So it uses the slow fractal. But yeah, fractal is this. It's a high and then a low, 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 right? It's kind of like it's like a pyramid. And then a low fractal's the same, where you have the lowest point and then you have higher lows on each way. Now there's many different kinds of fractals, like if it's not a super clean fractal like this and maybe the low is being taken out and yada yada yada. I'm not going to get into all that. There's many different patterns of fractals. But the very standard fractal is basically just think of a pyramid. And I believe Addis uses a 5 candle fractal. It looks like it uses 5.
So it uses the slow fractal, not the fast fractal. 3 and 5 are like the most common fractals. Either 3 candles or 5. A 3 candle fractal means that there is not really any confirmation. You have 1 candle before, 1 candle after, and that's it. The 5 candle fractal is more of a confirmation fractal. You have 2 on both sides. The indicator is just called fractals, I believe. Yeah, they're called Bill Williams fractals. That's kind of what the technique is. And that's kind of how I read market structure, right? So like when you have like a move like this, like that's a fractal. You have a fractal here. You have a fractal on pretty much every single reversal. It's going to be a fractal, right? It's just another way of reading market structure. There's like a million ways to read market structure. It's just one of the ways. Something that fractals really help with is if you're somebody that struggles with knowing when to pull your stop losses, when the level is strong enough for you to pull a stop loss, the fractals can help with that. So you see how we have this orange dot here? It's telling you there's a fractal here. So you have a lower, lower, and then lower, lower. So you're putting in a kind of a top pyramid here. A lower high. So if your stop was up here, and we had this fractal come down here, we could move our stop above that fractal. Yeah, your hand is a fractal, exactly. Yeah, that's a good way to put it, actually, yeah. If you look at your hand, unless you have like a weirdly shaped hand, your middle finger is a fractal, yeah. So like right here, we have this blue fractal here. Actually, that's not a good example because you can't really pull your stop there. Here's a good example. So like we have a fractal here, then we have a fractal here. So if our stop was down here, we could move it up to this level. So if our stop was at 77, once we form this fractal, so like after this candle here, we could pull our stop to 79. Now, I'm not saying that's how everybody should pull their stops. It's just another method. It's just another method of dragging your stop losses. I talk about that a lot in the tutoring sessions when people are saying that they struggle with knowing when to pull their stops. I talk about how you need to let the level be established before you pull your stop. Like you can't just immediately pull your stop the second that higher low is made. You need to let price kind of react to that level before you pull your stop into it. Dalton says you don't become profitable until you let go of exactness. Exactly, yeah. And I try to preach that on the channel like every day. Trading is not an exact science. You got to think about like everything as a zone. And not to go back into the rant, but that's exactly what I talk about when I'm saying that showing you my trades is not going to help you. It is not a exact science. There are zones of where you want to be looking for trades and where you want to be entering trades. And knowing when to press the button inside that zone, that's a personal battle. I cannot teach you that. I can show you the zone, you got to figure out when to press the button. Yeah, Bill Williams also had the alligator. He had the awesome oscillator. He's got a lot of indicators. He was very popular back in the day. He's not too popular nowadays. Like not too many people talk about him. Before Dalton, he was the guy that I read books and looked at his indicators and all that stuff. Before I dove into like volume profile, I was a Bill Williams guy. We are just glued to the POC, glued to VWAP right now. So if you're wondering why I'm not commentating, there's nothing to commentate on. I don't commentate when you're just POC rotating. The Bill Williams alligator is the main reason why I use the 8, 16, and 24. I don't really use the 16 anymore, but that's where that came from. Back in the day, I was using the alligator, and I wanted to change it up a little bit, so I started using the 8, the 16, and the 24, kind of in a similar way to the alligator. I believe Addis has the alligator. It's a very popular indicator. Pretty much everything has it. Yeah, alligator, there you go. That's what the alligator looks like. It's a 3 EMA system. And I'm not going to get into it, but there's a whole strategy around it with like the alligator opening its mouth and opening its jaw and going to sleep and all that stuff. It's a pretty cool system. If you like moving average trading, I would check it out. I'm not a big moving average trader, so I don't use it too much. But yeah, it's a pretty cool system. Yeah, Austin, the trail on the OTS is not exactly a moving average. It's more of a volatility indicator. And it lines up damn near perfectly with like 20 to 24 if you're using an EMA that's in that range. It lines up in like the responsive area. So that's why people use like the 20 to 25, somewhere around there. Those EMA links line up with responsive trading, with like pullback trading. So that's kind of where the OTS trail lines up. But it's more based on volatility, not just like price action. Yeah, they're not tied together at all. It's just a funny coincidence they line up like that. Did Bill Williams pass away? I never I don't know if I ever read about that. I know he was getting really old. Oh yeah, 2019. Yep. He was 87. Yeah, he's got a couple of good books called Trading Chaos. So right now we are just rotating the POC and VWAP. It has a slight bearish bias, a little bit more bearish delta coming in. If you can hold on to 98, it eventually will try to probably rotate to like 412 because you have a bit of a P-shaped profile. But it is, it's not finding a lot of bullish delta. You can see the delta just completely falling off a cliff. It's almost like a 5-minute rollover top, which doesn't look great. Yep, so they do use a 5-candle fractal because now we have that 5th candle, and it's telling you there's a fractal there. So like I said, fractals are not like a trading system. It's way too laggy to like, oh, there's a fractal, let me take a short. That's not what it means. It's more so just confirming market structure. So we have 2 lower candles, and then we have the candle in the middle here. So it's confirming that high there. The US is preparing Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac IPO later this year, according to Wall Street Journal. Is that the housing market top? That is pretty funny. Okay, so we have a P-shaped profile today, and we're on the value low. So if they stay below this value low, they are threatening to basically push back to the open. Now, this would be interesting because our pattern recently is once that initial balance has been taken out on one side, the other side is basically not tested the entire day, the rest of the day. So for this to be bearish, they would have to threaten the other side of that initial balance, which, like I said, is a very low chance based on the last few months that pattern has been happening. So it is kind of hard to trust this sell-off here. This could just be a rotation back down to the full session at 87. Holding 84 to 87 is very important. It's basically the open. Holding the open to 87. Okay, so here's a good example of what we talked about yesterday on that recap video, is we are finally starting to lose that breakout VWAP and that breakout POC. So that break is finally over, right? It's like confirmed to be over at this point. We started losing it way earlier. We started losing it around like 10:45-ish, but now we're like completely losing it. So you can go ahead and delete those now. Those are no longer in play. The big tape, the large tape, is very red. Keep an eye on our session VWAP at 614 on NASDAQ. Look at this chart. This is monthly visits on like chat AI, right? Chat bots. Not even close. OpenAI, Chat GPT, just annihilating its competition. I mean, they were like kind of the first big one. Here's another chart. So these are their scores, and Grok is outperforming. Gemini's outperforming mostly as well. They're all about the same, though. 4.1 not doing too good. They just announced they're releasing, I think, like 5.0. They announced that, I think, a couple days ago. Oh, he actually, they just said it right now, funny enough. By the end of the week. They're trying to release 5.0. All right, right now we're keeping a close eye on how it reacts to 83 to 87. Either if you're in a short, that would be a decent place to take profit, or if you're looking for a long, we need to see if that buy pressure comes in that area. Right now, it's very aggressive to the downside. That ADMA is pushing us down on every single candle. That 1 minute trail is red. We're putting in stair-stepping pivots. Pivots are being taken out. 5 is already out. Yeah, 5's already out for people that pay for it, I believe. It's not out for the free users. Yeah, it's already out for the premium users. Yep. Here's that session VWAP on NASDAQ. What's the difference? Just a newer model. I'm not sure what they're saying the difference is. There's probably a lot more details you could find, but it's just a newer model. Yeah, I think it's honestly, I think AI has already, like, especially for the younger generations, I think AI has obliterated, like, Google. Like, where you'd be like, oh, just Google it, or just look it up on Google or something. People are just like, just ask ChatGPT or ask an AI, you know what I mean? Like, that's the new thing. Like, just Google it is not a thing anymore. I mean, funny enough, nowadays, if you guys have been on Google recently, if you Google something, it literally tells you at the top. They have like their AI, their AI answers at the top. You're Gen Z if you say Google it. I don't know. I'd argue that. I think that's an older generation thing. That's my point. My point is that's like an older generation thing that people are telling people to Google stuff. Like Gen Z, they're just going to use AI. Like Gen Z probably doesn't even use Google anymore. Gen Z, Gen Alpha. I think it's Gen Alpha, right? The one after Gen Z. Just Google, it's probably more of like a millennial thing or even like a what's in between boomers and millennials? Gen Y, I think it is, or something like that. Gen X, is that what it is? Google is used more as a verb. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. Gen X, the generation everyone forgets. Yeah, I think everybody puts Gen X in like the boomers. When younger people say boomers, they're referring to Gen X and boomers. Yeah, you need a better verb for like AIing something, you know what I mean? You can't just say like, oh, just chat GPT it. Like there's no easy way to say that. But funny enough, that's what people basically mean when they tell you to Google something nowadays. They're telling you to go ask a chatbot. Keep an eye on that session VWAP here at 614. You're not exactly hitting that 87 level we talked about, bouncing a little bit early. There is a 1 minute pivot holding you up here. Your wife thought it was Chad GPT? Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, Jeremy, that's a good point. People just opt to read it on chat instead of like a website that has a billion ads, right? Yeah. It's like when I was coding for Athena, I have it in the database that whenever it refers to something like that, whenever it's pulling an article or referring to an article, it should be giving you the link. It should be referencing the link directly. You want to know where it's getting that information from, right? Not exactly absorption, but buyers coming in here. A really good buyer node at 94. Turning into a little bit of a 30-minute sweep here. Have a good weekend, Scott. It's not exactly a bear flag into VWAP because you didn't really break through VWAP too much. Like, it's basically just curling into VWAP. You want a strong impulse below VWAP for that to be a bear flag. And you're also chopping in between the VWAPs on NASDAQ, so that's not helping you. See how it reacts to that lower high down there. Or up there, I mean. Afternoon setups, like afternoon patterns we're looking at recently, basically the same patterns we've been watching. Just afternoon reversals. Retracing the single prints or retracing the afternoon breakouts. The closing spike has been a fantastic setup recently. That one's a bit more risky. I talked about that in the video yesterday. That's for like if you're at the end of the day and you want to just kind of take a stab at a risky trade. The closing spike has been pretty powerful recently. But all right, guys, I think we'll call it here. Like I said, be on the lookout next week. A couple of things. We'll be doing Momo Monday, obviously, on Monday. Apex reached out to me yesterday, and they're going to be giving us some free accounts to give away. So we'll be doing giveaways next week, week after, pretty much every week. We'll do a giveaway, but it's not going to be like every single day, but we'll be doing them weekly. So look out for that next week as well. We'll be giving away some accounts. What else do we have? Next week, I'll probably try to get at least one of those sizing guide videos out. We'll try to make a sizing guide for the larger accounts, probably like the 250s or the 300Ks. So look out for that one as well. As far as the calendar goes next week, I don't think it's too active. Let me see here. Oh, it is CPI week. Yep. So CPI next week on Tuesday, PPI on Thursday. So we'll keep an eye on that. CPI is obviously a pretty important data print. But yeah, that's all I got. You guys enjoy your weekend. If you want to support the channel, hit that like button. Be sure to subscribe. If you want to use our code on Apex, it's BREW right there at the bottom right on the screen. If you guys don't have access to the indicators and you want to try them out, be sure to send me an email. Let me know, hey, I used your code on Apex. Here's my TradingView username. Could I get access to the indicators? And I'll get you added for 60 days there. Here is my email if you guys need it. I believe they're still doing 80% off. And yeah, that's all I got. If you want to check out Addis, there's a free trial below. If you want to check out the Discord, you guys know where to find it. I believe it's the first link down below. If you guys are in Discord, I'll see you there for the rest of the day. If you guys are not in Discord, I'll see you on Monday. Enjoy your weekend. Peace, everybody. By the way, be on the lookout for this value retrace. We are currently retracing back to 410. So as long as you hold on to these 30-minute lows, you're looking to go to 410. But all right, guys, I'll see you on Monday.